Hello, everyone. I am excited to introduce you to Craig Devereaux, who is a new friend. We've literally just hit it off with alignment on just so many, I think, critical topics of the day. And so I'm excited to have him here and for us to talk about respect in the workplace. So welcome, Craig. Please introduce yourself to everyone.
Thank you for joining. And I will say that yes, we aligned very quickly on critical topics. More importantly, the heart behind these topics, right? And the reason why they're important and what we hope to accomplish through conversation and mutual work together and just being in each other's lives. And so I think that's really important. But my name's Craig, as already mentioned, and I'm the CEO and founder of a business called Advius Group. We're an executive search and coaching business. And so we are trying to solve a really important problem around executive failure, executive disappointment, particularly tied to the recruiting process. And secondarily, our mission is to really up-level team cohesion so that team performance increases. And our fundamental thesis is that when that happens, businesses will do well and people in those businesses will thrive. And so it is a moral obligation for leaders to get this right. I'm a husband of a beautiful, amazing woman named Adwa. She is my life partner in so many ways, and we have three wonderful children, 13-year-old son, an 8-year-old daughter. She's 8 going on 32 or going on 16, depending on the day. And then we have a beautiful 11-month-old boy who's has been a joy to bring into this world. So that's a little bit of who I am.
Love it. Welcome, Craig. And I love that you have the kids around. So if we hear them in the background, they are welcome. This is just a casual conversation about a very important topic, though, respect. Yes. So I also love, how you framed it. I believe every human being has the capacity to get to that level of conversation and relationship if we choose to invest the time and interest. Just literally this week, I've had a couple of flights and at least three out of 4, I ended up chatting with my neighbor, stranger. I just love those moments. And there's a part of me that's very businesslike. It's like I'd rather work or listen to a podcast, but yes. I love it when that happens and they're all completely different people and it was just fun. It was just fun. All right.
Similar experiences the past couple times I've been on an airplane. And to add to that point before we get into the respect in the workplace conversation, it's what's been so cool is the development of relationship past that. I met a guy on maybe a month and a half ago now, and we both happened to get a random free upgrade to first class, and we started a conversation because he was bumped by the flight attendant and almost bumped my baby. I was flying alone with at that point in time a 9-month-old, so and he was really worried about that. And then it sparked a 3-hour conversation. And Bobby, he has sent me a book since then. We've stayed in touch since then. We've gotten coffee since then. And it's been interesting to see how that happens when you just open up and have a conversation when the opportunity avails itself.
I love it. It's so organic. I'm not a fan of network events and stuff, but it's anybody who's in our realm, right? I mean, standing in a line or all of that. I love it. I think that's a lovely tee up for respect. So give us your definition, my friend, on respect in the workplace. I have to be very transparent with everybody listening. I really had my doubts about can I sustain this topic that I talked to hundreds of people and asked this simple question of how do you define respect in the workplace, and will I hear different things? Absolutely. Every time I hear unique ways. So please feel free to define it however it is true for you.
Yeah, it's not going to be a simple one-sentence definition, but I'll try to keep it as simple as I can. I think it starts with it's a bit of a structure, right? The first part of respect means when I am in the workplace, I am naturally going to be interacting with other people, whether that's in my internal ecosystems or my external ecosystems with my vendor partners or my advisory partners, whomever. But respect starts with, first and foremost, do I count the needs of others as more important than my own? Because that sets the foundation of service. When I have that mindset and I show up, respect means I'm willing to honor this person as important. Now, what I didn't say is devalue myself, right? Because that's how that can be misconstrued. I value myself enough to know that my calling is to serve another person, but I can't legitimately serve them outside of a quid pro quo scenario unless I can count their needs as just as, if not more important than my very own needs, right? And so I have to show up willing to see them that way and willing to serve them in that capacity. And I think that is, to me, that's the foundation and the heart of respect in the workplace.
I love it. I love it. So you just reminded me of another favorite way I think is in interaction with people. I think we all know the golden rule, right? Treat people the way we want to be treated. There's a part of that in that, but I think you've really defined my version that I call the platinum rule, which is treat people the way they want to be treated. So understanding their needs so that I can
Yes.
really address that rather than be concerned first.
Yeah.
And then the boundary piece you added was fantastic because I think when we don't do servant leadership, being fully aware of the consequences of our choices and decisions we made, it can just send us down a rabbit hole towards victimhood and yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And more than that, too, it's victimhood and or I'm a taker.
Yeah.
And I'm looking to other people for what I can get from them. And at that point in time, you and I both know this, those leaders are hard to follow at some point in time. And those people are tend to be a little bit lonely or a little bit bitter, right? And
Yeah.
so it's the foundation of respect and joy is the same foundation, right? Because the most joyful people that I know are the most, they give freely, they give fully with their whole heart, they give with no expectation in return. They don't enable people to continue in bad habits, of course, because the second part of all this is when you are willing to honor somebody in that capacity and their needs, count them as important, that also means not being afraid to have hard conversations, redirecting conversations, talent conversation. It goes into hand in hand with accountability, meaning I know you're capable of more. And because I know that, I want to hold you accountable to a higher level of your own self demonstration, right? How you show up. And I'll be damned, I am not going to rest. I'm not going to go to bed without doing my best every day to hold you accountable to your best. And that is also part of respect. And sometimes that means hard, critical conversations, but with the heart to give to that person and to build that person.
100%, my friend. Thank you so much. So well said. So, how do you know when respect is present in a company culture? And you work with many of them and you've been internal as well, I'm sure. What are the telltale signs where you just feel, if I may say, the energy of respect in a culture?
Yeah, this one's going to be felt, not defined, as you just mentioned, and from my perspective. And I'll talk about when I have experienced it, right? You don't really know it till you see it and experience it, but the patterns that have remained the same. There's consistent and open dialogue amongst the leadership team. There's not a lot of hoarding of information or hiding from information. The leaders tend to hold themselves accountable first, right? And then in one organization I can think of, every time I met with my leader one on one, they asked me about what I needed, what I wanted, how I was doing, right? And they framed the conversation around them almost being a mentor and a coach to me. That being said, I also remember three very direct, pointed conversations and having a conversation with a leader where they're saying, "Hey, we're going to have a hard conversation, but I want to have it now because I believe in you. I believe in you." And I think when those conversations are happening, they're willing to do that and then giving you the chance to take the coaching and implement the coaching, right? Cultures that don't have respect, you have no chance. There's no coaching. There is no, it's do more. Versus, oh, and this is the other thing that happened too. Sometimes they would say, if you were really upset or really struggling with something, hey, do you need 30 to 45 minutes to go deal with that emotionally before we talk and have this meeting? If so, go do it. Go get in your car, go for a drive, go do what you need to do. Come back.
Love it.
Versus just suck it up, right? There was an
Love it.
honoring
Love
of
it.
the other person's emotional state and giving them room to process. And I think, and then if I can, I'd use some others I know. One person I know very closely, and the way she has conversations, it's more like, hey, here's how other people are experiencing you. Is that how you want them to experience you?
Love it. Love it.
And that led to a really hard coaching conversation. But what that other person can walk away from is, wait a second, my leader cares deeply about how I'm showing up because and we're talking senior director, VP level people.
Yeah.
That leader, that C-suite leader cared and said, if you want to continue to progress in this world and career ladder up, this is a critical conversation for you. And hey, I've noticed this pattern. This is some feedback. Is this what you want? And if not, how can I help you get to where you want so I can set you up? The other last thing that I will mention, and I've seen this in two places, when people leave, does the company celebrate or do they get mad? Right? Are you dead to me or can we pave the way? And let me give one quick example. I was with a company and they would, for the people that were high performers that were leaving on their own, right? They would have a going away party for the person as they were leaving and they would celebrate them and they would honor that move because they know that, look, you can't be all things to all people. And that was a really important thing. And then the second thing that they did at times was when they knew that somebody was coming up against the ceiling, that the company didn't have a position for them, they would help them find another position of upward outside of the organization. That's how you know you are in an organization where people respect you.
Gold mine, my friend. Tons of great wisdom there. The one umbrella I heard in it is intent and impact. Across so many things you've said is when a leader can be transparent about that intent, and hopefully that it's a positive intent, and bring down the fear factor or fight or flight with, I have feedback for you, where everyone goes. Setting that intention of I have good intent for you is so critical before getting into feedback. All right. So is it the opposite then when it's not there? Let's go there. Share some examples, Craig, of when you've been in a place where, just call it toxic culture, where there isn't respect.
Yeah, I think that we've all experienced this and it's really bad. It's sad when we do because you realize one, you're micromanaged to the nth degree. Two, even if you have good ideas, you are never allowed to be the smartest person in the room, right? I've been in places where my ideas were implemented after the fact, but I never got credit for it. Now, as a teammate, we give ideas because we want the company to win. Because if the company wins, we all win. But I think that there's this, in cultures that don't have respect, there's this sort of zero-sum mentality, right? Where in order for me to win, somebody has to lose. And I'm just not a big believer that's entirely true. I don't think that's true. Now, I'm not naive enough to think that we don't play a win-loss sort of game, right? But in the world of people and leadership and respect, you get yelled at, right? One-on-ones are about how you're never doing enough. I think leaders in this capacity would always walk in and say, what would the CEO do here? How can we embody him here or her here? And in my particular experience, how can we embody this person in this meeting? How can I be just like them? That's not respectful at all, right? Especially when it's, again, heavily micromanaged, low trust, right? Low accountability, low integrity, meaning will the leaders do and hold themselves to the same standard that they hold everybody else to? Will they give themselves the same sort of rigorous treatment that they give everybody else? I think you also know it when you have cultures of extremely high turnover, right? And let's brace that because some businesses, some startups, depending on where you're at in your life cycle, will naturally have higher turnover given the life cycle. But is it higher than what is normal?
Yeah.
Sales teams, we all know the bottom 10 to 15% tend to turn over consistently. But if you have a sales team that has 45% turnover, 50% turnover, is that those are things that you have. And then when you get in there and you experience it, and it's claustrophobic almost, right? They hold you in your lane. You can't swim outside of your lane. These are the kinds of cultures where if you ask a question, you get critiqued on, did you ask a good enough question? Did you ask it in the right way? Did you preface it with enough context, right? There's this constant, oh my God, we have to be so perfect and so this, that, and this, and all the other, whatever it is. You've been there, we've done that. And so people will labor and say, I have to spend 3 hours of thinking on how to ask one question in a Slack message, because if I don't, am I going to get chewed out? Or worse, am I going to get fired? I've been in
100%.
cultures like that. It is
100%.
miserable. And frankly, those kinds of cultures, they tend to pay really well, right? But what you realize there is, oh, it doesn't matter if it's me or anybody else. I'm not terribly relevant. And I don't seem to matter to the people. Now, I might matter to some people in the business, but I don't matter to the business.
Yeah. No, you nailed it, my friend. Again, and that piece right there is classic research around every single human has the desire to be validated. Do you see me? Do you hear me? Does what I say matter to you? And when people don't feel that way, that's where you end up with this toxic culture. So let's wrap up with your tips, but I'm going to customize this question this time, Craig.
Please do.
Build on what you just said. Imagine, because I bet you've done this, I bet you've been successful with executives in particular who are in that toxic culture environment. Most of us walk away from that is they're not going to get it. It's not my target audience. I'm not even going to bother.
Yep.
But if you can think of when you have been able to find an open, hopefully the door is ajar at least, if not wide open, what are some tips for that listener, especially those, I believe people coming to the podcast they resonate with us, but perhaps they're in an environment where they have leadership like that in that toxic workplace. How might you guide them, or in terms of coaching them on how they might be able to shift the tide in a meaningful way? Because you know how tough it is to get somebody who's only thinking of the extrinsic motivators and the pragmatic, it's only business and it's all about the bottom line. What are some tips to break through that to get to the goal that we believe in?
Yeah. Now this is the question I wish you would have let me prep for. It's harder, but it's good that we're talking about it like this. It's hard because my number one tip is a couple things. I'll go in no particular order, but we can parse out the hierarchy in a minute. One, it's not personal, right? It doesn't say the truth about you the way you might think it does, right? And I think so many people, what they have to do is disassociate from, oh, my boss only gives me a 2.5 on a scale. Oh, but what I've learned is no one in the company can get higher than a 4 ever. And only one person is actually making all these performance decisions. That reflects on the leadership, the leader and the leadership more than it reflects on you in that kind of culture, right? Because in a good culture, we also know that the leader will come down and say, hey, Bobby, we're going to have a hard conversation around this performance review. You have a 2.5. What happened this year? They're going to open a dialogue. Hey, Bobby, this is what I see. Is that consistent? What do you want? And what I want for you, Bobby, is to flourish. We have to determine, how do we get you there? In toxic or in cultures where it's not going to happen that way. It's going to be, hey, here's what we think about you. And then there's no 360. There's no backup, right? But you also have to realize that doesn't say a whole lot about you. It's not personal, right? So you have to disassociate from that in that kind of culture. Secondly, that internal commitment to do what is right regardless of what the other person is doing. So at the beginning, we talked about, and I defined it as count the needs or the wants or the desires of somebody else is more important than your own. Not in a self-harm way, right? Like I'm going to be a wet blanket. It's a service way. But you have to come to that mindset regardless of whether or not that person is going to accept it or receive it or reciprocate it. It does not matter. Why? Your character matters far more than turning the tide. Period. End of story. Now, outside of the practical tips that I'm going to give in a second, those two things being said, that will set people up for so much more self-compassion and joy and the ability to have some resilience in the face of a toxic culture or disrespectful culture. Yeah. Now, pragmatically and practically, it gets down to this. Have a conversation. Set expectations. Hey, leader, hey, manager, what is my role here? What is the goal of this? Where can I give more value, right? What else can I do to set myself up to have more impact, to have more influence, to have more value? What do you see that I could do? How can I position myself differently? How open are you to some thoughts and ideas that I have? And if you ask them in open-ended ways, and coming back around, what do you want, Bobby? If you're my toxic leader, what do you want? And what I want for you, Bobby, is to win. See, and that's what I think matters. And I said this a second ago. Want them to win anyway, right? And not because it's like it's this altruistic thing per se, but it's rising tides raise all ships. And I have found that if I can stay consistent to my character and my own integrity, and I show up with kindness and I show up with respect and honor, that is going to say a lot more than anything I do. That's going to have more influence and impact on my leader. Now, the problem and the hard part with that is that takes time. And then you have to ask yourself this question: do I want to give myself that kind of time here? And it's okay for somebody to answer no. And I think that's the last tip I would give to somebody. Be okay with saying, I don't want to be here anymore. This isn't for me. And then acting on it.
I love it, Craig. Thank you so much. Thank you for letting me throw you a little curveball there. But no, I think it addresses both ends of it. Super helpful tips. Thrilled to have you. Hopefully have you again, and we'll take other scoops on this. Yeah. Have a great day, my friend.
Thank you, Bobby. Appreciate it. Enjoyed it a lot.